This is Newcap News with Bart Pediasic.
Good evening. Police are asking for the public's help in identifying a suspect after a local hotel was damaged early yesterday morning. Lloydminster RCMP say they responded to a call just after 6 a.m. at the 4600 block of 50th Avenue. A large object was thrown through the window, nearly hitting an employee, and also smashed and broke several items inside. Officials are looking for any witnesses and are continuing to investigate. You can call the Lloydminster RCMP at 780-808-8400 if you have any information. On Cold Lake, First Nations are fighting back after being forced to make their financial information public this year. The government introduced a Transparency Act to require First Nations to post their financials, including the salaries of the chief and councillors and their business profits. But as Fraser Snowden finds out, even though they complied, they aren't happy.
It's us making a stance on our rights as First Nations people, and we're more than accountable for the funds that Indian Affairs gives the nation.
IA money comes from Canadian taxpayers, but officials say the amount, which only makes up 25% of their total funding, does not pay their salaries. That comes from their business ventures.
We have no problem reporting every single cent that is spent from Indian Affairs money. How we deal with our business entities is really none of the federal government's business.
But with a posted profit of $17 million from those businesses this year, and a number of councillors paying themselves sometimes six figures, some criticize the state of houses on the reserve.
Power, people living in makeshift shacks, and living off wood stoves, off generators. They don't have running water. They still have to use outhouses.
However, Councillor Sally Scanie says it's a constant battle with all of the expenses they have, and with a growing population, they are well aware of the issues their people have.
We're trying to build houses. We do build homes. If we just spent all our money on infrastructure and homes, we wouldn't have extra monies to help with mold remediation or renovations.
And be transparent and talk about the confidentiality they have with the agreements and whatnot. Our company's made $17 million last year. There shouldn't be nobody homeless on our reserve.
Scanie says these are all factors that can be talked about in their next meeting.
And do people want their leadership to cut back on wages? Possibly. And when you have community meetings, those issues come up and we talk about it.
In Cold Lake, Fraser Snowden, Newcap News.
Like many of us, the city puts money into a savings account whenever it can. Money from those accounts is supposed to go towards funding projects when needed, like the sewage treatment plant and the service sports center. But for the last 5 years or so, the city has forgotten to move those funds. According to Director of Finance Nicole Reiniger, the city has about 35 different reserve accounts.
So at the end of the day, we had about $29 million worth of projects. We had funded all capital needed to happen, and we didn't do the accounting entry to move it out of a reserve account and put it back into the surplus. And so we're just doing that now and getting ourselves caught up and putting us in a good position to move forward.
In all, about $21 million will be moved out of the reserve accounts and become part of the city's surplus while they decide what to do with it.
Council, so council can develop some policy as to how we want to fund reserves going forward, what number is appropriate, just to set us up to be successful going forward.
$18 million will be left in the reserves to fund ongoing projects like improvements to subdivisions and the eventual closure of Lloydminster's landfill. Some local non-profit groups are getting a boost in donations today. The Lloydminster Rotary Club holds an annual auction and announced the total proceeds at their meeting this afternoon.
We raised $12,210, and it happened in less than an hour.
The Olive Tree Salvation Army and Avery Outreach School will split the donation, receiving about $4,000 each.
Because it just made sense to help out three very needy or well-deserved organizations in the community.
Young says he's not positive what the money will be used for, but added that all of the groups will be working hard over the holidays.
And I know Olive Tree has the gift guide. They're going to be giving out freezers though, and giving out food hampers, that kind of stuff. And of course, the Salvation Army is always big for giving out the food donations, so they'll use them for that, I would think. But wherever they're needed, that's where they'll use them.
The Rotary Club has been doing an auction around Christmas time for 10 years. In the past, they've bid on poinsettias and turkeys, but this year they bid on items from the Olive Tree's gift guide. Well, last Tuesday, over 140 people were killed, most of them children, at a school in Pakistan. It has been called the biggest human tragedy in the country's history. Over the weekend, members of the local Pakistani community gathered to honor the victims of the tragic event. Jeremy Thompson reports. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Dia Asif somberly leads members of the local Muslim community through a prayer. They've gathered in memory of those who were lost.
We are all Canadian-born children, so we are all born here. We have backgrounds that attach us to foreign countries. Myself is Lebanese. Most of these children are from Pakistan.
With such strong roots in the Middle East, it's easy to see how an event so far away can hit so close to home.
It's not fair for these people to find out that, well, when I'm going to go visit back home, well, the people there are not going to be there anymore.
Each candle on the table serves as a reminder of the lives that were senselessly ended last Tuesday in Peshawar. Now, as many of the victims were children, it was important that the local kids here participated in the ceremony.
All the Muslims here, we can say prayers for those people who can't, the people who died and the people who are injured and who lost loved ones.
That we ask our God to ask for them peace and put them in a great heavens, and for them to ease the pain on the parents and the families that lost their loved ones back in Pakistan.
Hopefully this never happens again, but if this does happen again when we grow up or things like that, we can be the ones that be able to host this, and we can be the ones that teach the younger kids about this.
With no end in sight for the unrest in the Middle East, Shamir and his young peers will continue to pray for peace.
Peace is the only way you'll actually have like no wars, because a war will just start another war, and another war will just start another war. So fighting will never be the answer.
Jeremy Thompson, Newcap News.